Good morning, Honors Algebra 2. It is Tuesday, April 13th, and we are continuing to talk about section 13.4, graphs of the sine and cosine functions. So let's just consider this part 2. And it's really not that difficult. We're just going to do a vertical shift. So this section is on a vertical shift. All right. So let's go ahead and look first here at this blue graph. This is what we learned about the other day, yesterday actually, y equals the cosine of x. And so we have this midline here, a horizontal line at y equals 0. And the cosine function starts at positive 1 and ends at 2 pi, a normal period at positive 1, with a minimum of negative 1 halfway at pi radians, and then we cross the x-axis at 90 and 270 degrees, or pi over 2 or 3 pi over 2 radian. Now, let's look up above at this green graph. This is simply y equals 3 plus the cosine of x. It can also be written y equals cosine x plus 3. You can put the 3 before or after the cosine of x. That's fine. And look what it does. It just shifts your graph up 3 units. And so now my midline is the horizontal line at y equals 3. And we're still going to start 1 unit above the midline and end 1 unit above the midline at the period of 2 pi. Halfway through our period, we're going to have a minimum, and then we're still going to cross the midline there halfway between the max and min. Now, there's my curve. That's it. Now let's look up above at our general formula here. Y equals C. C is the vertical shift, plus A, the amplitude times the cosine of bx, where B is used to find our period. Our period is 2 pi divided by B. Now, let's go down to the bottom here and look at a couple of other formulas that we can use. To find the A value, the amplitude, what we can do is we can take the maximum, and over here I've defined my capital M to be a max and my lowercase m to be the minimum of the function. And to find the amplitude, I just take the difference between the maximum and the minimum and divide by 2. So if you look at your green function, the maximum value is 4 and the minimum value is 2. Subtract that and you get 2 divided by 2. Your amplitude is 1. And certainly we know that for the green function here, green graph, the amplitude is 1, the distance from the midline to the max or minimum value. Now, let's look over here. What is the C value? The C value is going to give me the vertical shift. And the vertical shift is going to be the maximum plus the minimum divided by 2. Instead of subtracting, we add. And so 4 plus 2 divided by 2, 6 divided by 2 is 3. And we know that 3, I'm going to circle it up here, 3 is our vertical shift. Okay. So if you're going to take notes, those are a great thing to take notes on. I'm going to move on now. I'm going to be done there. And let me go on here. Now, let's look at these examples. All righty. So I'm going to go ahead and hit my pen here. And we're going to look up here at the first graph, y equals 2 sine 2x plus 2. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually note that I have 3 little dots here. Oh, dot, dot, hold on. Hold on. Boop, boop, boop. There we go. Okay. So let's go ahead and graph this. Now, I've got a plus 2 here for my vertical shift. So I'm first going to just do, you don't have to do this. It kind of makes your graph a little bit messier, but I'm going to go ahead and do my midline there. Okay. Now, I notice here that I have a amplitude of 2. My A value is 2. And then my B value is also 2. So it is a sine function. So it's going to start at normally the origin, but we're going to shift up and start it right here at 2. Now, what is the period? Well, the period is going to be 2 pi divided by my B value of 2. Here's my B value right here, okay? And so my period is going, oh, I went to yellow, huh? My period is going to be pi. Now, if my period is pi, that means that my sine graph is going to begin and end at the midline at my period of pi. And then I know that halfway between that, I'm also going to cross the midline. And then halfway between these points, I'm going to start by having a maximum. Now, my maximum is going to be 2 units above the midline. So I'm going to go up to 4 there. And then I'm going to go down to 0 there. And there's basically my graph. And so I'm just going to continue this pattern here. I'm going to, and when you do your homework, just continue your pattern just like I'm doing here. You don't have to go into the negative zone over here, so don't worry about that. You don't have to do that. Now let's go ahead and create our curve. And notice that this is not a V. These are kind of more like parabolas, okay? So that last part's a little wonky, but there we go. There is 2 times the sine of 2x plus 2. Now, I'm going to go down to the lower one, and to do that, I think I'm going to minimize that so I can see. Now, I have a -3 for my vertical shift. So I'm going to go ahead and go down here to -3 as my midline. Okay, this is a cosine curve, all right? And my amplitude, let's go ahead and do the amplitude. And on the homework, you have to put all these. The amplitude is 1, because the coefficient of the cosine is 1. The period, the period is going to be 2 pi divided by my b value, and my b value is 1/2. So that gives me 4 pi for my period. Now the homework will also tell you to do the shift, and you will say simply down 3. So these are the things you're going to answer. And actually, I would probably do, and here my period equals that. I would just box that. Okay. Now, my period is 4 pi. This is a cosine. And so cosine, remember, it's our coaster. It normally starts at +1. And so I'm just going to start, my amplitude is 1, so I'm going to start 1 unit above the midline. And then I'm going to end at a maximum. But my period is 4 pi, so whoa, look at my maximum. It's going to be way over here. Now, my minimum is going to be halfway between that, which is halfway between 4 pi and 0 radians, and that is going to be at 2 pi, so I'm going to go down 1 unit, and there I have it. Now, halfway between 2 pi and radians and 0 radians, I'm going to cross the x-axis. And same thing over here, halfway between my minimum and my maximum, I'm going to cross the x-axis, and here it is, okay? It's going to look like that. And that is my cosine of 1/2 x minus 3. So that's it for today, guys. That's it. Now, I had a little bit of a boo-boo in that I was supposed to give you self-test 1, just problems. Let me look real quickly here. I'm flipping through my book. You can hear my pages going. Just problems 1 through 4. 1 through 4. Oh, wait a minute. Whoa, I have one more thing to share with you. Whoa. Okay, well, let me keep talking about that. Okay, so for your homework, you are going to do self-test 1, okay, and you're going to do problems 1 through 4. And I am going to have you go ahead and take a quiz today on, that's just lessons 13.1 to 13.2. 13.1 to 13.2. Of course, it is open textbook and open note. And then besides that, you're going to have a worksheet. And I've given you the answers to that. And so this is what I expect, guys. I expect you to do the work, check it with the answer key. And I'm only giving you odd problems in the book. I want you to check those. So basically, you're checking your own homework. You're allowed to fix it. And so in a perfect world, how I'd love this to work is that all of your homework will be 100 because you'll be grading it yourself and I've given you all the answers. So the Zoom time is just to help you figure out if you're having trouble how to do it. Now, if you're sleeping in a little bit and you have a question about the previous day, I can address that too. Okay, we have a 30 to 40 minute Zoom lesson. So if we want questions from the day before, you can ask those and then leave. You can come and go from Zoom anytime from 10 to 10:40. So go ahead and set your alarm and get up if you have some questions about these graphs. Now, you've got that worksheet. It's not going to take you that long because we're really just shifting up and down. And so you should be getting a little bit more comfortable with how to do this. So I apologize about the quiz. I should have had you do the self-test yesterday, but the video was so long, I think it was probably just as well we did it today. Now, here's what you're going to have. Let's look at the top of the page here. You're going to have this for a homework problem also. It says find an equation of the form y equals c plus a sine bx. And what it wants to do is it's going to give you the maximum and the minimum values. Now, we just talked about that in the previous slide, that the amplitude or the A value can be found by the difference between the max and the min and divide that by 2. And the C or the vertical shift is the sum of the max and the min divided by 2. Now you're also going to have to figure out the B value because they're going to give you the period. So I'm going to do one with you. All right. So let's go ahead first and find the A value. Well, they tell me the maximum is 5 and they tell me the minimum is 1. And so that amplitude is simply going to be 5 minus 1, or 4 divided by 2 is 2. So I already know my A value. Let's go ahead and find the C value, the vertical shift. It's going to be your maximum plus your minimum divided by 2, which is 6 divided by 2, which is 3. And so the only other thing we need to find out is the B value. Well, let's remember that your period is 2 pi divided by b. Let's rearrange that formula. I'm going to show the middle step here. I'm going to multiply both sides by b. P times b equals 2 pi, or b will equal 2 pi divided by the period. Whoops, hold on. Did a little boo-boo there. Let's get rid of that. Let's go back to that, and let's go. Okay, come back, go. There. Okay, so B is 2 pi divided by P. Well, let's go ahead and find that. That's 2 pi divided by, let's look up here, it says the period is pi. And so I'm going to divide by pi, and so my B value is 2. So now I have everything I need. Look at my equation up here. I'm just going to fill it in. Y equals C, which is 3, plus my amplitude is 2, times the sine. Now my B value is also 2 times x. And there is my equation with a max of 5, a min of 3, and a period of pi. I have a vertical shift up of 3. I have an amplitude of 2. And this B value tells me that my period is 2 pi divided by 2, or pi. And I have a wonderful equation. Now, on these problems on the homework in the book, you do not have to graph that. So the only thing you're going to have to graph is from this worksheet. And so you will have to print off the worksheet again. I'm sorry, but it's just the easiest way to do it with these trig graphs. I'm trying to make it as easy. I don't really like the problems in the book that much. So for the graphs. So I hope you have a great day. Come see me at Zoom at 10 if you have any questions about these graphs. And I hope you have a wonderful Tuesday. Bye-bye.